Good morning, everyone. Thanks for stopping back by the channel. I appreciate you being here. Today's topic is going to be one that's a very touchy subject. It's one that affected pretty much every American 20 years ago to this day. I'm talking about the September 11th attacks that took place September the 11th, 2001. I'm not going to go into detail about the specifics that went on. There are far more videos that I could ever do with detailed content and everything that went on from eyewitnesses. What I want to talk about today, and what I want to try to entertain every one of you with, is where I was and what I was doing when this event took place. Now we're going to skip ahead a little bit from where I was going on in my first couple of videos on when I joined the Marines. September 11, 2001 for me started off just like any other day. I joined the Marines January 1999, so I'd been in just shy of 3 years, around about 2.5. It was Tuesday, and it pretty much started off just like any other Tuesday in the Marines would. We did mandatory PT Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Tuesday and Thursdays, instead of PTing, we'd get to work a little bit earlier and start about our daily routine. So I don't remember, I hate starting off like that. I don't remember the specifics of the morning because it was so mundane and so routine that all the days would run together. I know I would have woken up, went and got chow at the chow hall, breakfast obviously at that time of the day, got to our shop. I was in an engineering battalion and started work. Where memory comes into is at some point during the morning, I had some kind of an errand to run around base. I had a car. The base was too big to walk around. Marine bases, Army bases, they're huge. So I had some kind of an errand that I needed to run. Something official that would have let me get out of the base. I'm sorry, not out of the base, out of the platoon. And I took my buddy, my best buddy at the time, shout out to you, brother, if you ever get to see these videos, Tim Marin. We were both E3s at the time, Lance Corporals. That would be the third rank there in the Marines. And I don't remember the exact errand that we had to run. I'm sorry, it's 20 years ago. What I do remember was we were on our way to the base internet office. I had a compact Presario computer, and our internet provider, the domain was called devildog.com. It was hardwired in, plugged it into the back of the wall there in the barracks, just like we did with the Ethernet cords back in the day, long before Wi-Fi probably did exist, but certainly not in our realm and world at that time. So we had to pay a monthly subscription each month. It was around $19 or $20. I don't remember exactly how much it was, but that sounds about right. So we're in my car, and we're driving toward this office on base, and we're listening to Howard Stern on the radio. This was just regular FM, AM radio, and he had mentioned about, it just kind of caught my ear. I wasn't paying too much attention to the show because I was busy driving, and he had mentioned about a plane crashing into one of the World Trade Centers. And I didn't think too much of it, and I remember Marin saying something that got my attention. How the fuck could a plane crash into that? It's only the tallest building. And I remember I didn't even know what it was. I wasn't really versed on what was going on in New York. And I mean, of course, this was what was going to kick off 9/11s. I didn't even know what the World Trade Centers were. And I looked over at him. I said, what? What are you talking about? He looks at me. Carter, World Trade Center, New York City. I don't know what the hell that is, man. It's these two tall towers where they do all the trading business in the world. And a plane just crashed into it? How crazy is that? Like, dude, that's... Man, they must have had... So now I'm going to make some jokes, not to make light of what happened. This was the real moment at the time. 21-year-old me, not knowing what was about to happen from then on. And I remember going... What, do they have the most rookie-ass pilot flying this thing? He couldn't see a tower right in front of him. We didn't know if it was storming, raining, or hurricane. And then I kind of felt bad. Not much. This was me at the time, 21-year-old Marine. Not feeling very bad about what had happened, but still a little bit remorse going, well, damn, I hope they're able to get people out of the building. We got to the office, and it was just a simple office. There was an older guy that worked in it. Don't know his name, never did. Went inside to pay our bill, and he had the same radio station on and was listening to it. And as we're getting ready to pay the bill, the second plane hits the World Trade Center. And we all kind of looked at each other and were listening to it. And at this point, he had clicked off of Howard Stern and had switched over to one of the news media broadcasts. And they were talking about the second plane had crashed into the World Trade Center. This seems extremely ironic, beyond coincidental, that two planes at this time, this could have crashed into these two buildings. This could potentially be an attack upon America. And I remember this older guy making the comment, oh, if this is an attack, this is going to bring us all back to active duty. And I asked him, you were active duty once, sir? Retired 20 years. And I said, so you could be brought back into active duty even though you're retired? Absolutely. Once you retire with pay, you can be brought back anytime. Keep that in mind for y'all's future careers. And I remember thinking, damn. And it hadn't sunk into me yet that two planes had crashed into the World Trade Center. I was thinking more about, well, if I retire, I could still get brought back in for something. The mind processing of a 21-year-old. And we left and got back in my car. And we didn't hear about it on the radio. I don't remember what we were doing in the car. We were talking. It didn't really come much to mind. But at some point from our trip from that office to back to our building, our platoon area, was when the Pentagon had got hit. I was stationed at Cherry Point, North Carolina, and the base went from, there are different threat cons of bases. Normal, Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta, in an ascending order of threats toward the base. The base went from normal to threat con Delta, which is listed as attack is imminent or attack has taken place in an area around where the base was. Now, Cherry Point, North Carolina wasn't too far from wasn't too far from New York. It was a little ways away. But with planes flying around, they could close that distance pretty quick. All these logistics were way above my head. These things were taking place, and I didn't even know about it. Smartphones weren't in our pockets. We weren't getting alerts or texts or anything like that. So the base at this point had gone into scramble mode. By the time we got back in the parking lot, being part of an engineering battalion, I worked with heavy equipment operators, combat engineers. Motor transport wasn't too far from us. When we pulled into the parking lot, I remember seeing just a bunch of Marines scrambling around the area and a lot of the heavy equipment vehicles being moved around. Thinking, okay, wasn't uncommon to see one or two, maybe three of the heavy equipment vehicles moving around when we needed to move equipment. But for pretty much every single one of them to start getting scrambled, that wasn't very common at all. I got out of the car, me and Marin started walking back to the area, and at this point, our gunnery sergeant is outside in the area, yelling out as loud as he can, fall in, form up, get in formation. And we took off running, got over in our area, scrambled up into our squads. We're trying to get ourselves organized by rank. Wasn't uncommon to get called into formation, but this seemed extremely rushed. And I remember Sergeant Arpadasis, God rest her soul, calling all of us to attention, turning around to the gunnery sergeant, and before she could give the report, he steps around her and says, look at here, devil dogs, listen up. We've been attacked. Both the World Trade Centers have been hit. He had a deep Cajun accent. It's kind of coming out. I'm doing a very poor version of it. Both the World Trade Centers have been hit. Pentagon's also been hit. We going to war. And I remember just standing there and it soaking in and setting in, going, oh, okay, this has gotten real now. Changed any kind of plans that I had in my mind. At this point, I wanted to get out of the Marines. I wanted to finish up my enlistment. I had planned to stay in North Carolina, and I was going to go through the North Carolina State Trooper Academy. I had a serious relationship at the time. It's long since ended. I had a serious relationship going on, and that was my plan. Well, in May of that year, I got orders to go to Okinawa, Japan. By a Marine's 5th year of service, you can expect to go to Okinawa and serve at least 1 year there. When you graduate boot camp, Marine Combat School, and you go to your MOS school, you're either going to go to Okinawa, finish a year, then come out and finish up stateside and re-enlist, or you could do 2 years stateside and possibly spend your last year overseas. That was my case. Or once you finished your MOS school, you would finish up 3 years stateside, and then when you re-enlisted, your very next duty station was going to be Okinawa, Japan. So you're going to Japan one way or another unless you got out. So the second category happened to me. I already knew that I was going overseas. Didn't want to go, wasn't part of my plan, it messed up a lot, so my head was definitely in the wrong area. I was just in a bad mood, bad attitude. It wasn't what I wanted to do. I was going to try to make the best of it. And now, it looked like, we didn't know at this time and day, it looked like we were about to go to war. And you want to talk about the sense of reality. Like, holy shit, this is getting real for now. Well, what's our next move? We didn't know what our next move was. We didn't have marching orders. We couldn't just pull out our phones and start looking at national news and seeing what was going on. We were very much in the dark. The wheels started turning slowly, but they did start turning. We didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't know if we were going to be a target, if the base was going to get bombed or attacked. Was this a coordinated attack effort? We didn't know. Most of us didn't know the name Osama bin Laden or any of the other terrorists that were involved in this. It was peacetime. We knew who Saddam Hussein was, of course, from Desert Storm, but that was a distant memory. And it wasn't a very violent conflict. Not taking away against anybody who was involved in that, but it wasn't compared to what we had coming up to us in a very short time. So the reason all the heavy equipment vehicles were being moved around, they were moving around to block off roadways. We didn't know where the next attack was going to come from, or nothing like that. And we weren't organized into squads and immediately sent to the armory to get our rifles and man any kind of posts or defenses. The rest of the day kind of went on just like a normal day. The only kind of information that we had really was what was coming from the news media on the radio. And the biggest concern at that point was identifying individuals that were from that area, that had family in that area, and to get them in contact with those individuals to see if they were all right. So I remember kind of being like a deer in the headlights, except the headlights were very far away and approaching really slowly. We knew something was going to happen, but we didn't know what. The next couple of years after that, things would definitely change America forever. But that was the day that, for sure, as we all know, did change America. That's my account of where I was, what I was doing, and how I remember 9/11 happening. Now, it wouldn't be very long, wheels would get set in motion. I was promoted to E4 Corporal November the 1st. I was set to report to Okinawa. Oh, Lord. It was right before Thanksgiving. I don't remember the exact day. So much of this is a blur because of everything happening so fast back then, and this being 20 years ago. I do know that I spent Thanksgiving in Okinawa. I was promoted to corporal November 1st. I left the base to go on leave November 3rd. I took about 2 weeks worth of leave, went back home, stayed with my parents, bummed around for the time, just tried to relax. But you could tell that this had affected everyone. It was all over the news. It was all the news media you could talk about at the time. Uh, it it was the hottest topic, hottest story ever, as it should have been. And once I got to Okinawa, things went from there. I'm not going to go into any more detail on what went on from that point. That's going to come in far later stories. Last video I left off where I had just finished up at the MEP Center and was just getting ready to go to boot camp. I wanted to do this video today because of today's events and just mention where I was, what I was doing, and how things were about to change very fast and very rapidly for every single one of us. Folks, I know this is a touchy subject. I know this is a very difficult topic for a lot of individuals. I hope that the content I brought today everyone was able to enjoy. Please leave a like, comment. I'd love to hear about where anybody else was on this day, what you were doing, how it affected you. It seemed like it very much brought us together as Americans for a very long while because of the tragicness that did happen from it. Everyone take care of yourselves. Stay safe. I appreciate every single one of you. Y'all take care.